Hello, this is Dover Wilkins with another edition of Old School Boxing Talk. And this one, I'm going to do a video on fights that never happened that should have happened. I was talking to some people, and one of the fights that people wonder about why it never happened was Alexis Arguello and Roberto Duran at when Duran was still the king of the lightweights, and that would have been a good fight. But I think the reason that one didn't happen was because during Arguello's career at featherweight, I think he took some time off, and when he came back, he had just got to 130, and by the time they were going to make the fight, Duran had got the offer to fight Leonard which was for more money, and of course, was a bigger fight, financially and stadium status wise. So Duran chose the Leonard fight because Duran had been struggling to make 135 pounds for a long time, and not saying Duran wouldn't have fought Aguel. Duran would have fought Aguel and would have beat Aguel, but the Leonard fight was a bigger money fight, a bigger fight. So I believe that's why that Duran took that fight, the Leonard fight, which is why I believe the Aguel fight never happened. Like I said, if I'm wrong, someone will tell someone that knows more about that than I do. But under no circumstances should I hear anybody trying to say Duran ducked Alexis Arguello, because Duran ducked nobody. Um, Another fight fights that didn't happen that should have happened was Aaron Pryor versus either Tommy Hearns or Sugar Ray Leonard. And there's a bunch of stories about why those fights that Aaron Pryor never fought Leonard, Hearns, Duran, Benitez. Why Aaron Pryor never fought any of those four guys? They were all around the same weight. Um, Not going to go into that. Once again, a lot of he say, she say with that. And you know, not too many of you modern people are going to even know who Aaron Pryor was and what he was about. Now I'm going to jump to a subject that is near and dear and closer. A fight that most likely I'm thinking that either Kurt Sugar, I know Blood would know. Blood Box, if you check out Blood in his documentaries, Blood would probably know those guys. I'm going to hope those guys have the answer. Why did James Toney and Bernard Hopkins never fight? I've always wondered why, because they were always close in that area, and I was wondering why those two never hooked up. That would have been a fantastic fight. I would have loved to see Hopkins and Toney. And I'm not going to sit here. I could sit here and say, well, I think this and I think that, and you guys know I'm quick to give my opinion. But Hopkins and Toney was a fight that I think it could have been made at a catch weight. After Toney fought Roy, maybe it was a chance that fight could have been made. I'm saying there was chances that fight could have been made, and I'm always wondering why that fight was never made. Like I said, maybe Kurt Sugar, maybe Blood Box, those guys would know. Maybe there's somebody out there, in the LDVC or other boxing aficionado would know why Hopkins and Toney never fought each other. I wish I honestly would like to. I would love to, maybe if I could have talked to either one of them and say, "Hey guys, why don't y'all never hook it up?" Um, but that's one of those fights that you look back and say, "Hey, why didn't these guys ever fight?" And that was a pretty good fight there. That would have been a pretty good fight, Hopkins and Toney. That was a nice fight. I was, they were, like I say, they were passing ships at 160, because I believe when Toney vacated the belt Toney had at 160 was the belt that Hopkins wound up fighting Roy for and losing to Roy, and then Roy, of course, when Roy left, then Hopkins wound up getting that IBF title. Because Toney, of course, we know got it from Michael Nunn, and then James defended it a couple of times. Then James left, when I moved up to 168, and then Roy won it from Bernard. Roy wanted a vacated title, beating Bernard, and then Roy defended that thing maybe 2 or 3 times, and he left. And then Bernard had 2 fights with Machado before he won it. And of course, the rest is history with that IBF belt. Bernard held it. But I'm wondering why Bernard and James Toney never fought. And it's kind of funny because it's like Roy fought Bernard, Roy fought James, and Bernard and James never got together. It's kind of, yeah, kind of always, funny mix there. It's like if you go back to the welterweight, you look at like Leonard fought Benitez, and Benitez fought Hearns, but Benitez never fought Hagler. And the reason Benitez never fought Hagler was because Benitez was on his way to fighting Hagler, but he got beaten by, I think, Matthew Hatton, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Matthew Hatton might have ended Wilfredo's career. And no, Mustafa Hamsho. It was Mustafa Hamsho. Benitez lost to Mustafa Hamsho, and I think after that point, Benitez kind of spiraled out because Benitez was fighting Mustafa Hamsho, and had he beat Hamsho, he would have fought Hagler, but Hamsho beat him, and I think that's why Hamsho got the rematch with Hagler. I'm not 100% sure. I believe that. I know he did lose to Hamsho, and I believe that I could be wrong on that. But I think I'm pretty much right with that. I think I'm 95% right with that. I know Mustafa Hamsho beat Wilfred Benitez, and I believe that was Benitez's date. That was supposed to be Benitez's step up to middleweight, and the winner of that fight was going to get Hagler, and Hamsho wound up getting Hagler. And that's why Hamsho got the rematch, because he beat Benitez. I believe. I don't. I know he. I don't think I'm wrong on that, but I'm not 100%. Um, but I mean, they're a great fight. That's one of those fights that you wonder where the guys that are in the same weight class, you're like, why did they fight? Now, a lot of people, when they go back, they say, well, my favorite fighter of all time, and I've never been one of my favorite fighters of all time. And I've never been bashful about this. Anybody that knows me knows I am a big fan of Marvin Hagler. The guy was just Marvin Hagler and Matthew Saad Muhammad were two of my favorite fighters. And I hear a lot of people say, why didn't Hagler fight Mike McCallum? Um, at that point, first of all, let's go back and revisit something. Even Mike McCallum has said on interviews that he feels Hagler ducked him. Let's go back and revisit something. When Mike McCallum was breaking through, Mike McCallum wasn't well known. And at that point in Marvin's career, Marvin was looking for the big money fights. It wasn't that Marvin was afraid to fight Mike McCallum, no. It was a high risk, low reward type of fight. Mike McCallum has just established himself, and I believe at that point in time in his career, the biggest win Mike McCallum had was over a shot Donald Curry. I think that was right before, by the time he was ready for that fight was even in the process of his biggest win was over Donald Curry. Because Julian Jackson wasn't really, nobody that people were, saying, oh, and you have to remember that Marvin also was promoted by Bob Arum. So Mike McCallum didn't get to fight for two reasons. One, he wasn't well known, and two, he was a Don King fighter. And the guy who Marvin wanted fighting, who I felt Marvin wanted fighting, was a young, undefeated James the Beast Mugabe, who, as I look at that fight, I felt that fight shortened Hagler's career. It was a fight Marvin really shouldn't have took. That fight took a lot out of Marvin, physically. I think that fight, and it was shortly after that fight that Leonard decided, oh, let me jump back in here and pick the bones. And that's pretty much, I think, had Marvin Hagler not fought Mugabe, I think Marvin Hagler maybe had another 3 years of boxing in him. I think that Mugabe fight took about 3 years off his career. And that's why I respect people. As a former amateur, I respect the guys that get in there, because a lot of people sit there and they say, well, why didn't Floyd fight Cotto at this time? Or why didn't this fight happen? I think people sit there and say, well, Floyd fought these guys, but he fought them at the right moment. He did. And let me tell you why. Marvin Hagler fought a young John the Beast Mugabe. In that fight, Hagler Mugabe probably took about 3 years off of Hagler's career. 3 years. That Mugabe fight was so damaging to Marvin's body physically. Marvin was pissing blood after that fight. Marvin Hagler, after that fight, was in such bad shape. It took 3 years off of his career, because I believe after the Mugabe fight, Marvin took a long break. And anybody that watched Marvin Hagler, Marvin didn't take breaks. Marvin Hagler was banging him out back, having fighting 2 times a year, 2, 3 times a year. That Mugabe fight was so taxing and damaging, more so than the Hearns fight. That Mugabe fight took more out of Marvin Hagler than any fight ever. And it just goes to say, as a fighter, and I think maybe Floyd, watching fighters in the past take fights that maybe you shouldn't take that fight at this time. Even though you say you want to fight the best, you got to know when physically to take it at certain points in your career. And realizing the damage, maybe Floyd said, well, yeah, we could have fought Cotto at 147. But how many years would that have taken off my career? So when they did meet at 154, yeah, it was a little past his due date, but Cotto was still a damn quality name. And yeah, was Cotto damaged goods when he fought Floyd? Yeah, because I think that, again, fights, the cheating of Margarito, I think that Margarito fight took years off of Cotto's career. Took years off his career. Even though, yeah, you fought on, but Cotto was never the same after that Margarito fight. And anybody that's watching Miguel Cotto up until before the Margarito fight and watched him after Margarito fight, you realize it's a different Miguel Cotto. It wasn't the same Miguel Cotto before that fight. And that beating that he took from those plaster gloves took years off of his career. Boxing is a sport where any one fight, the physical toll, not just the emotional toll, but the physical toll, can take years off of your career. Years. That's why sometimes a trainer will think about when a trainer, let's take the recent fight, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. The beating that Tyson Fury put on Deontay Wilder, people crying that Mark Breland stopped the fight. No, Mark Breland stopped that fight, and now Deontay Wilder has a chance to come back because he didn't sustain a long beating that would have took years off his career. Anthony Joshua, when he fought Ruiz the first time, he quit. He said, fuck it, I'm not going to take this beating. Because could Anthony Joshua continue? Absolutely, but what was the point of it? Ruiz at that point in that first fight was just going to pummel Anthony Joshua, and a beating would have probably been worse. So Anthony Joshua said, yeah, all right, I'll let this one. But then when they had the rematch, Anthony Joshua wasn't too damaged. He came out, he realized how he should have fought him the first time, just boxing. And he outboxed John Ruiz, who also came in at 300 pounds, whatever he came in. He just wasn't, but the point of the matter is, Anthony, sometimes a trainer, and this is why we need good trainers in boxing, has to, when his fighter's in the ring, as a trainer, you have to not only look out when your fighter's in trouble, not just look out for damage it's going to do here, but for damage it's going to do to your fighter down the road. So when a trainer stops, I get upset when trainers don't stop fights right. Going back, look at Diego Corrales and Floyd Mayweather. When Corrales was so upset when his corner threw in the towel against Mayweather, but actually that stoppage saved Corrales' career, because Corrales went on to have a great career. Had that fight went on into 11 and 12, we don't know what damage Corrales would have had done to him. What beating Floyd, because Floyd was beating Diego Corrales the shit out of Diego Corrales. Diego Corrales was not going to get a lucky punch and win that fight. He was not. Only thing Diego Corrales was going to do in that fight, if they wouldn't have stopped it when they did, was Mayweather was just going to beat the crap out of Diego Corrales for 6 more minutes, and you didn't need that. Diego Corrales' career maybe don't recover. What happened? His corner stopped it. Corrales was set, but Diego Corrales came back from that to have a pretty decent career. To win another junior lightweight title and to win unify the lightweight title. But if his corner doesn't stop that Mayweather fight, maybe he doesn't have that. Maybe because Corrales was too brave for his own good. So sometimes as a corner, you have to think for your fighter. And I think the same thing happened with Wilder and Fury, was that Mark Breland realized Deontay's not going to stop this fight. He's not going to go back to the corner and say, I can't go on. He's not going to do what Anthony Joshua said, yeah, this isn't worth it. We'll come back and pick it up. Deontay Wilder will stay in there. And honestly, at the rate that fight was going, Tyson Fury was showing how there's layers to this game of boxing, and how Tyson Fury was showing his layers, how he went back to Kronk, how he was willing to go back, realize what the mistakes he made in the first fight, and take all these other fights to get himself ready, then go back and find the folks at Kronk to say, look, I got to work on some things. And those guys were in there and they helped him out, and they helped him sharpen some tools that he needed sharpened, that he had. And the thing about it is, and this was always been my issue with Deontay Wilder, is he was never getting better. In my opinion, I never seen Deontay Wilder getting better. I seen Deontay Wilder as a one-trick pony. He was sticking around, and he'd land that big right hand to send you to put you to sleep. And then what? What Tyson Fury did to Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury got on the inside, realizing a puncher like Wilder needs space. So if I don't give you that space, now what are you going to do? And Deontay Wilder was not prepared. I blame that on Deontay Wilder. I also blame it on the people training Deontay Wilder, that throughout his career, they had this guy with a big right hand, but they never worked on anything else. They never worked on the other skills. They never, said, hey, we really need to work on that jab. We need to work on the hook. We need to work on inside fighting. They never worked on those skills, and now the blueprint is out. So for Deontay Wilder, he really has to learn these other skills, because everybody now is going to realize, okay, don't stand on the outside, get on the inside, because this guy can't fight on the inside. And like I said, I think Deontay Wilder can come back, but I don't think he's going to beat Tyson Fury. I think there's too much levels. I think he could beat Anthony Joshua? Yeah, I think he could beat Joshua. Joshua's just too. Anthony Joshua's another guy that doesn't like to fight on the inside, so Joshua will stand outside, and Deontay could clip Joshua, and put him away. Because Joshua, still walks around his chin in the air. Deontay could handle Joshua, but he can't fight a guy like Fury. Fury has too many levels, too many layers to him. For a lot of these guys I see out there in the heavyweight division right now, Tyson Fury is just head and shoulders above everybody out the heavyweight division. And it's like 1A, and then it's like 1, and it's like, I would say it goes down to B. I would say the next level guy is Anthony Joshua, who's a B, and then Wilder's maybe a B minus, and it goes down from there. But Tyson Fury is clearly the top guy in the heavyweight division, skill wise and ability wise. Now the problem with Tyson Fury is mentally, can he keep it together mentally outside the ring? That's his biggest bugaboo, has been what happens to him outside the ring. Inside the ring, the man is as good as it gets. Outside of the ring is where he has his problem. But there's a lot of fighters that have that same problem, that are great inside the ring. Look at Earl Spence. Inside the ring, he's good. Outside the ring, he has issues. That's another discussion I'm going to give my opinion on Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford. I believe the problem is this. Bob Arum won't let Terrence Crawford fight any of the people that Terrence Crawford should fight. And this is the problem. This is the problem that, has happened with boxing now, that, people keep saying, Bob Arum's the first one to come out there and say, oh, this guy won't fight me. We can't make a deal with Al Heyman. We can't. And that's bull. Because you got guys over there. Keith Thurman is saying, I'll fight. Keith Thurman is saying, I'll fight Terrence Crawford. Sean Porter's up there. We're friends, but yeah, I'll fight him. There are people over there that will fight him, but what's he doing? He's trying to throw up a smoke screen by chasing Kell Brooks, who's already said, I can no longer make welterweight. And it's not going to happen. I'm not coming down to 147. I can't make 147. He said, I can't do it. He went down there. Kell Brooks went down to 147 because he was too proud to be stripped of his title. And he was giving Earl Spence all he could handle. But of course, I'm going to say this like, he picked up a dent to can. Kell Brooks was a dented can, and Earl Spence took advantage of that dented can and did what he's supposed to do. I can't blame Earl Spence because he fought a dented can. When the fight was originally supposed to be made, Kell Brooks was a, you know was Kell Brooks was a, was a whole was a undented can. He chose to go up to middleweight and fight Golovkin and get banged up. But then he also chose to do the honorable thing and come down to 147 to fight Earl Spence. And then after the Spence fight, even before the Spence fight, he kept saying, I don't know if I can get down to 147. And even before he took the glove, he was saying he was having problems making 147. So now here, what you're doing is you're chasing around a more than dented Kell Brook, excuse me, to put another name on the roster of Terrence Crawford, who doesn't really need. Look, I I don't believe any of those welterweights at PBC could beat Terrence Crawford. I don't. I think Terrence Crawford is that good. I've see and maybe I'm not as hyped on Earl Spence as I used to be because I've seen Earl Spence fight Mikey Garcia. It seems to me the problem I'm seeing with Earl Spence is this. Earl Spence seems to want to go out there, instead of fighting his fight, he seems to go out there and want to prove something to people that I can do this or I can do that or whatever. Instead of fighting his fight. Had he fought his fight, he probably stops Mikey. But he said, oh, I got to prove I can box. Had he fought his fight, he probably beat Sean a little cleaner, but I got to prove I can do this. Stop trying to prove, every time Earl Spence goes out there, his two biggest fights, he's trying to prove something. Stop that. Go out there and fight your fight. Stop trying to prove you can do this. Stop trying to prove you can do that. You know what you can do. You show it when you need to show it. You don't go out there and say, well, I'm going to do this because I got to prove a point. You don't do that. That's when you get in the problem. That's probably why I'm not as high on Earl Spence as I once was, because he didn't impress me in his win over Mikey Garcia or his win over Sean Porter, because he did not fight it. He said, I got to prove I can do this. I got to prove I can do that. So with Terrence Crawford goes out there and fights. He doesn't go out there to say, well, I got to prove I can do this or I got to prove I can. Go out there and do what he got to do. I did what I had to do to win. Earl, and that's why I look at Crawford and I say I would favor him against every other welterweight out there, because I think that a lot of these guys, they go out there and they try to do something they can't do or be something, something, and they're like, I just think Crawford's skill level is above. Now, I'm not going to go as far as what Tyson Fury said, head and shoulders, but I think it's above the rest. I think Keith Thurman, because of injuries, is a shot commodity. But then again, I noticed what Keith Thurman is, once the level of opposition stepped up, Keith Thurman wasn't the same Keith Thurman he was earlier. And I noticed that from the Guerrero fight forward, Keith Thurman wasn't the same fighter that he was before Guerrero. Where he got the nickname one time, that one time thing wasn't happening anymore, And it is, look, as you get up there, as you move up in opposition, the guys are better, so it's harder to get knockouts. But I'm saying, as far as looking impressive, I noticed, like I said, from the Robert Guerrero fight forward, Keith Thurman was just getting by. He was just doing enough to win. He wasn't really dominant. If you look at the fight, and I'm just, look at the guys he fought, though. Sean Porter, Danny Garcia. He was fighting a murder's row. He was fighting some of the tough guys. But he didn't really dominate those. He won those fights, but those fights were closer than they should have been. Now, from what I'm hearing, Earl Spence is supposed to fight Danny Garcia, which I think if he goes into a Garcia fight, I think that's going to be off of his layoff. I would not take that fight. I think they should do with Earl Spence what they did with Keith Thurman. Pull up Josecito Lopez. Let Earl get that fight under his belt to get himself back in ring shape. Then have the Danny Garcia fight, because we don't know when we're getting back to in-ring action. So, but I wouldn't have Earl Spence come right out, his first fight back fighting Danny Garcia. I would have a Josecito Lopez, just like they did with Keith Thurman, work him back in, then maybe go on and fight Danny Garcia, and then sometime next year, I'm hoping that maybe he fights Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford, and we have an undisputed welterweight champion, which I believe will be Crawford if it happens, if it comes to fruition. I think it's going to be Crawford. But that's a story for another time. Um, Now, another fight that I was looking forward to, and in that, even before this Corona thing hit, that was in trouble was um, Lomachenko and what's the boy's Lopez and Teofimo Lopez. Now, that was a fight that was supposed to be in the works for as long, for a long time. They wanted it to be for undisputed, which it could have been, but then Lomachenko decided he doesn't want to fight Devin Haney and decides to ask the WBC to franchise him. He says he didn't. He was his people. But WBC says that, point of the matter is you gave up the WBC belt to get a franchise belt, so you're not doing undisputed, and all because you were worried about fighting Devin Haney, who you would not have had to fight for another year. So, these things come in cycles as far as contenders. So you had a whole other a year and a half before you had to deal with Devin Haney, which means Lomachenko. The problem I have here is you did not. Devin Haney was your mandatory, but your mandatory wasn't due for a whole year. It wasn't like there was a whole deal with, oh, I gotta fight him now. And here's another thing: unifications trump mandatories. So you had time before you had to deal with Devin Haney. You didn't have to give up the BC belt. You could have kept the BC belt, fought Teofimo Lopez, become undisputed. And then after you were undisputed, you would have had then of course the Devin Haney problem comes in there. Because, then the issue is, oops, or is it WBC? And of course, I know in the WBC, they would have allowed you to have your rematch with Teofimo. But yeah, the Devin Haney but you still had time. You could have kept the BC belt and fought this fight. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Lomachenko don't want the Lopez fight. I think Lomachenko is starting to look at these guys at lightweight and say, you know what? This is getting a little tough here. I can't handle these guys. These guys are big and they're too big for me. And I'm barely getting past the level of guys I'm fighting. And Devin Haney is supposed to be a level above these guys. I don't know that because right now, am I going to say Devin Haney's a level above Campbell? Don't know. Am I going to see Devin Haney's a level above Lauren a level above what the hell is his name? Whatever the guy he won, the other guy that Lomachenko fought at lightweight. Name will come to me because that guy's fighting. Damn it, because Linares. Am I gonna say he's a level above Linares? I don't know. Linares is about to fight one of the guys who I like him, but I always thought he was well protected. Linares is about to fight the young boy at a Golden Boy stable. Damn, I forgot. It'll come back to me. His name will come back to me. The young boy over in Golden Boy, the little pretty boy there. He's about to fight him, and so we're gonna find out. But what I'm saying is, to me, it looks like Lomachenko at this point doesn't want to be at 135. He's already made it clear he's not moving to 140. That's too much, and that's nothing that bothers me about Lomachenko is because great fighters dare to be great, and all these people trying to say Lomachenko's a great fighter and this, you're not great if you won. You were never undisputed at featherweight. You were never undisputed at 130 pounds, and now you're at 135. You got 3 out of 4 belts. You got two out of the four belts, and you're not even and you're wavering on fighting for the this kid for the third belt. Um, Now maybe it's a tactic that you said I'm going to hold this thing out because I know this kid is so big that he's struggling to make 135. That I'm going to hold it out to make sure that he comes in there really weight drained, which could be a tactic Lomachenko's using to get Teofimo Lopez, if Teofimo's not keeping himself in shape outside the ring, that when Teofimo does make the fight, it's going to be so hard that Teofimo's going to have so much of a hard time coming in at 135, and then maybe only being able to rehydrate up to 145, that he's just like going to be dead, dead. He won't have anything in the ring. Maybe that's Lomachenko's playing there too. But I don't see why this fight shouldn't have been already signed, sealed, delivered, and we could say, okay, we're having this because this Corona thing. We could say, okay, we should be back. I believe we'll be back to business by Mother's Day, but this fight should have been signed and set up to happen in maybe September. Um, but it seems like a lot of the problems that we're hearing is coming from Lomachenko not wanting to sign the fight. Now, I know that from what I've been told that Lomachenko, for Aram to get Lomachenko, he had to promise Lomachenko gets at least a million and a half per fight. And so, that's, Lomachenko. Here's the problem. Um, these guys, Aram, I think Aram in particular, does not know. He doesn't know how to. He doesn't know how to build superstars. I don't think Bob Arum's ever built a superstar. I think he's promoted fighters that were already stars when they got to Bob Arum. Bob Arum has never built a superstar. And a lot of the star fighters, they were star fighters when they got there, and Bob Arum just did the minimum. He relied on them being stars to sell. Here he's got a case where he wants to take a guy like Lomachenko, and he's trying to make him a star because he's not a star. Because the ratings on Lomachenko prove that he's not a star. He's not a draw. The arenas they fight in smaller arenas because he's not that big of a draw. And they say, oh, well, there's not a big whatever country he's from following, and they try to fight in places where there's a bunch of. Look, Terrence Crawford's not a star either, and but when he fights in Omaha, he does good. Here's the problem. Some guys aren't stars, they become stars. You have to know how to build a star. And in the old days, the guy that you were competing with before you used the Ali Act to push him out of the business, Don King knew how to build stars. Don King had a star in Mike Tyson, but he also helped build Mike Tyson to a bigger star. But what Don King did with his other fighters to make them stars was, hey, let's put them on Tyson's undercard. Let's stack that undercard. And here's what happened. You know what came off of those Tyson undercards? Tito Trinidad came off those Tyson undercards, because by fighting on Tyson's undercards and fighting top opposition, we got to see and appreciate Tito Trinidad to the point where Tito was headlining his own pay-per-views. So we can bring other fighters and put them on Tito's undercard and make them stars. So then they can start headlining their own pay-per-views. That's how boxing, and it was done that way a little bit. Golden Boy did that. They had Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd was working with Golden Boy, Floyd was the star. And what you brought along Canelo and put Canelo on Floyd's undercard. Danny Garcia, good fighter. He wasn't a star. What do you do? Put him on Floyd's undercard. He fights on Floyd's undercard. These guys get a bigger name to the point where now they're ready to carry their own. That when people know them, they say, "Oh yeah, I remember him because Floyd's fights get so many views, and these fights, you're getting those views. So now the guy's out there where he wouldn't be there before, and he becomes a bigger star." Bob Arum is unable to create stars. Bob Arum has had Sugar Ray Leonard, who was a star coming out of the Olympics. Um, Marvin Hagler was made a star pretty much by accident. Tommy Hearns became a star. Benitez was a star. a lot of these guys, Duran was, a lot of these guys, Duran fought for Don King. So, but Don King knew how to build a star. The point is, a lot of amateur fighters that were either already stars coming out of the amateurs, or by accident they became stars. But Bob Arum does know how to build stars. Ali was already come on, Ali's greatest of all time. So come on. But Bob Arum does not know how to build stars. He doesn't. He doesn't know how to build stars, and it's coming and it's being shown now. It's showing out now. Bob Arum, he had Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar was a star. Floyd was a star. He didn't know how to treat them. They both left. Guess what? They became even bigger stars without Bob. Now Bob has this guy. Now Bob has Terrence Crawford, and he has Lomachenko, and he has Teofimo Lopez. They should all be stars. Excuse me, but they're not. And it's because Bob Arum, he's got, doesn't know how to build stars. He doesn't know how to build stars, and he doesn't really care to build stars. He sits there and complains, oh, this guy can't draw here, and I can't make money with this guy. Well, guess what? You have to spend money to make money, Bob. And you weren't willing to put the money in because you've always had stars. You went from Ali to Leonard and got in Tommy Hearns, and Marvin Hagler was, like I said, Marvin Hagler became a star by accident. You didn't make Marvin Hagler a star. Marvin Hagler became a star by accident. And you just happened to be able to latch on to that lightning bolt as Marvin became a star. You didn't create a star in Marvin Hagler. You just jumped on the lightning bolt. Oh, okay, he's popular. Okay. You were never a guy. You've never built a star. From people say, oh, well, Top Rank do the best job of taking prospects and taking them from this point to that point. And they do. Good matchmaking, Carl Moretti. Good matchmaking. Yeah, you'll take them and put them in, but when it comes time to take those stars and make them a crossover superstar, you don't. You got Shakur Stevenson, who was popular coming out of the damn Olympics, silver medalist. He should be, one of the most popular guys in your stable, but you don't know what to do with him. You want people that have a built-in following. Like I said, you had Ali, who everybody loved Ali. You either loved Ali or hated Ali, and more people loved Ali than hated him. Sugar Ray Leonard, golden boy of the damn Olympics. Oscar De La Hoya, golden boy of the Olympics. Floyd Mayweather, talent personified. You had guys that had the talent that people knew about. With Oscar, you jumped on that Latino community that was going to back Oscar. And the other community, you really don't want to cater to the black community, which you should, because Ali came from there, Leonard came from there, and you're going to say, oh, I don't know how to promote to the black community. You're full of shit. You don't want to promote to the black community, or maybe because the black community knows you're so full of shit that, they don't want to support your ass. Not the fighters, you. Because look out, the minute Floyd got the fuck away from you, Floyd blew up. Blew up. So, Floyd Mayweather left the business worth more money than you are, Bob. And you've been doing it longer. He doesn't have your know-how or your input. He did better without you. De La Hoya made more money without you than he did with you. You do and if Andre Ward and James Prince are smart, they take Shakur Stevens when his contract with you was done. They take Shakur Stevens and give him the hell away from you, because if Shakur Stevens is going to be a star, it's not going to be under the Top Rank banner, because he's the wrong color and you won't promote him the right way. You want fighters that have an already built-in large following, so that you have to do no work. You just put their name out there, put them in there with somebody, and all the work is done. You're not willing to put the work, and you're not willing to say, hey, call up ESPN and get them on first take. You're not willing to call up Fox and say, hey, put them on. You're not willing to call Fox and say, hey, put them on, the show with Skip and Shannon. You're not willing to do the things, get him a little guest spot on a Good Morning America. Bob Arum, you're not willing to do those little things to build your fighters, which is why they're not crossover stars, which is why you sit there and say, oh, Terrence Crawford can't draw. Well, if Terrence Crawford was promoted the right way, he would be. Well, those are the things you need Terrence Crawford to get, be talked about on Good Morning America, to be on with on you on ESPN, to be on First Take with Max Kellerman and Stephen Nothing Smith, to go over there on the show on Fox with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. You know, to be out there in the media, to be on these talk shows, to get out there, get his name out there, get his fights out there, get his personality out there, get him a little guest spot on a goddamn crappy little ABC show or something. You don't put that work in to promote your fighter, Bob, but you're quick to cut his pot, you're quick to take your whatever 33 and a third percent or whatever the hell you get off out of his purse, and then complain because your 33 and a third ain't big enough. Well, like I said, that's why De La Hoya got away from you. That's why Mayweather got away from you, and they both made more money without you than they did with you. And I will say to Shakur Stevenson, I will say to Terrence Crawford, Shakur Stevenson more because Terrence Crawford's at the tail end. If you really want to blow up Shakur, get the hell away from Top Rank and Bob Arum because they're not going to promote you right. So till next time, like I said, but the main topic of this was before I went on my rant was, and I hope I can get an answer from Blood Boxing, is Blood, Kurt Sugar, somebody let me know, why did we never get Hopkins versus Toney? That's the question I want. And maybe Blood, I know Blood, I know I do this to you all the time, brother. Because your video thing is long, but you do the best damn videos. People, if you want to see a great video on the career of Pernell Whitaker, boxing retrospective, Blood Boxing, the heavyweight division, Blood is doing the heavyweight division from 1982. We're right after Larry Holmes beat Jerry Cooney. He's got that going. There's a bunch of great videos on his channel. I highly suggest you go and check that channel out. You learn so much. I've learned things about Pernell Whitaker I didn't know. Things I might have forgotten. Go in there and check out Blood Boxing. If you once trust me, when you join his channel, put your notifications on and make sure you get notified for anything and everything he does because his videos are the truth. You know, I mean, I think if Blood put together a documentary on the goddamn signing of the Constitution, we'd all probably learn more about it and we'd all want to watch it because of the way he does it. So, I'm going to leave that for you, Blood. I hope you'll get back to me either in your comments or maybe when you're on OG Boxing Talk Sunday morning at 9. That'll be my question to you. Fanon, if Fanon knows, if any of you brothers know, tell us why we never got that fight. Till next is Doe Wilson signing out. Peace.